Morning everyone, I'm in Sivas, Turkey, which is kind of in the north-central part of Tokyo, capital Tokyo area. Like in Kayseri, I'm kind of at the frontier of where the Eastern Islam and Seljuk meets Western Christian Byzantine and eventually Ottomans. I'm looking forward to it. I'm enjoying having 2 days instead of just one. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, but before I get to the video, let's get to the intro.
My name's Jack Rogers. In June of 2023, I decided I'd had it with normal life and set out to travel the world. 2 years later, I'm still going. I've seen some cool things in my time. I've swam the Nile, followed a matador around Spain, dived the world's oceans, and even returned to Iraq after 5 years away. Now I'm off on my next expedition, an 18-month trek through some of the world's most fascinating pilgrimages. My journey will take me to 12 countries as I walk in the shoes of religious pilgrims, ancient traders, and soldiers who blazed these trails centuries ago. This isn't just another trip. Unlike my first journey, I won't be walking the earth aimlessly. This is a chance to walk with purpose, to trace the footsteps of those who move for faith and survival. These routes carry stories, and I intend to find mine among them. I've never attempted anything like this before, but after 2 years of discovering what this world has to offer, I'm ready to take the plunge into some of life's deeper meaning. I'll be tested, physically and mentally, but I know in the end, it will all be worth it as I become a wayfarer. As had become tradition by this point, I went to start my time at Sivas by visiting the Ulu Cami, or the Grand Mosque. Unfortunately for me, it was not open.
So behind this wall is the Ulu Cami. It's being restored or renovated, which has kind of been a theme on a couple different mosques I've been to throughout this leg of the Wayfarer expedition. Built in 1196, so over 800 years old. And from what I can tell from online and reading the boards and stuff, it is not a traditional mosque in the sense that it's, got the grandiose courtyard and all that. It's really a symbol of the Islamic frontier because, wait for that motorcycle to go by, because it was, right, founded before the fall of the Byzantine Empire at the collision point of the Islamic caliphates and Christian Byzantines. And as a mosque, it was built before the Seljuks, who I mentioned in my kind of explainer video, allied with the Abbasid Caliphate, which was the third Islamic caliphate to provide their political military support. Before they consolidated power, this mosque was built. So it didn't have any sort of really big official protection or backing, but it's very important symbolically because it's kind of like the castle in Castro Jerez, Spain. It symbolizes the farthest frontier for the time of where Islam has expanded until eventually the Seljuks consolidated power, and once they fractured, the Ottomans, of course, then came from west to east. But it's a very good spot to start this adventure here in Sivas because it's very much that dividing line of the future of the Wayfarer expedition in Turkey. I also enjoy the symbolism and irony of this one being called the Ulu Cami because at the time it was the Grand Mosque. It was an important marker on the frontier, centralization of religious, spiritual, social, even political power of Islam in this city and region. But today it's been supplanted by a number of much bigger, much grander mosques that will never be the Ulu Camis, but which serve a more important purpose in modern history, especially considering that in Turkey all the mosques are state-run and administered. So you'll see a grand mosque over on Government Square that really serves the role of the Ulu Cami as opposed to the actual Ulu Cami.
Seeing as I'd probably never be back in Sivas again, I decided to take my videos anyway. After all, these are some pretty lovely construction signs. Once I had my fill of construction videos, I headed over to the Gök Madrasa, whose name means Blue Madrasa, and it was built during the 1270s during the height of the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum. It was commissioned by Sahib Ata Farahin Ali, a powerful vizier who oversaw the construction of many of Anatolia's great religious and educational institutions. Like other madrasas of its time, this one was designed as a center for advancing Islamic scholarship, where students studied Quranic law, theology, and Arabic grammar under appointed scholars. The madrasa's plan is organized around a central open courtyard, surrounded by small student cells and study rooms, which today serve as a museum. At its far end sits a domed iwan used for lectures and prayer. What makes the Guk Madrasa distinct, though, is its monumental stone portal, flanked by twin minarets that were once covered in turquoise tilework, hence the name Blue Madrasa. These minarets, along with the intricate stone carvings of geometric patterns and Quranic inscriptions, represent the artistic height of the Seljuk architectural tradition in Anatolia. Beyond its educational purpose, the madrasa also served a political and social role. It was a symbol of Seljuk power and of Sivas' status as one of the most important cities in the empire. The vizier's tomb is even incorporated into the complex, marking the site as both a place of learning and a resting place for its founder, an architectural practice common in elite Seljuk foundations. After the Seljuk period, the madrasa remained active under the Ottomans, continuing to house students of religion and law. By the 1900s, it had fallen into disuse and partial ruin, but major restorations in later decades preserved its form and carvings. Today, the Guk Madrasa stands not only as one of Sivas' defining landmarks, but as one of the best preserved examples of Seljuk educational architecture, showing how faith, knowledge, and authority were intertwined in medieval Anatolia. Today, the Guk Madrasa no longer serves as a religious school, but as a museum and cultural site. Its restored halls house exhibits of Seljuk art, calligraphy, and local archaeological finds, allowing visitors to see how the building once functioned as both an academic and social hub. The courtyard and Iwan are often used for small cultural events and photography, while the upper levels remain open to study and preservation work. In this way, the madrasa continues to educate, just in a different form, by connecting modern visitors to the intellectual and artistic world of the Seljuks. The Guk Madrasa was not, however, the only notable madrasa in the city. They are the Shit Manarella Madrasi, the Shafia Madrasi, and the Barusia Madrasi. This first one is a Shifta Minarelli Madrasi, and it's mostly ruins. But once upon a time, it served as a medical school and hospital where students studied anatomy and treated patients using early Islamic medical practice. It was constructed in the 1300s, and its name literally means the twin madrasa. That's because the structure's two wings had a dual purpose. One side was for education, and the other side was for healing. Today, its ruins still show how advanced and organized medieval Seljuk science and healthcare once were. The adjacent Shafia Madrasa also served a similar purpose as a medical school and hospital, but it was founded in the 1200s as opposed to the 1300s. Today, it houses cafes and small boutique shops.
So in some of my Spain videos, I've mentioned, or will mention depending on when they post, that when they restore old churches or buildings, that I wish they would hold them true to their original purpose or turn them into a museum and not decorate or redesign them or repurpose them for other purposes. However, these madrasas in Turkey are a bit different in that they used to be Islamic schools for teaching science and math and Islam, but with the coming of Ataturk and the establishment of the Republic of Turkey, they were shut down because Turkey is officially secular and all Islamic activities, mosques and teaching are actually governed by the state to ensure that there is no uprising of religion against the political entity of the state. So, what are the options? Well, they have these huge madrasas, these old schools that they could just sit there and do nothing with. Some of them are quite beautiful and are good monuments on their own, but ones like this one and some in Kayseri are right in the middle of town, and they need to have some sort of purpose. So I really actually do like the fact that the madrasa itself is untouched. It is restored and held in its original state, but the courtyards are turned into public spaces like cafes or shops, while keeping with the motif so that everyone can enjoy these once important schools and population centers without destroying their purpose or meaning in the city.
Off to one side of this madrasa, is the tomb of Sultan Izzeddin Kayvas I. He's the one who founded this madrasa in the first place, and his burial here links royal authority with public service. Next door stands the Barusiya Madrasa, built in the 1270s by Musawa Buruseti, a wealthy scholar from Iran who settled in Sivas. The madrasa was founded to teach astronomy, mathematics, and theology, reflecting the continued intellectual curiosity of the late Seljuk period. Its layout follows the classic open courtyard plan, surrounded by student cells and lecture rooms just like all the others, but what sets it apart is the carved stone portal, one of the finest in Anatolia, covered with interlaced patterns and Quranic inscriptions. The madrasa operated for hundreds of years, training scholars who bridged scientific and religious study. Today, it remains one of the best preserved examples of the Seljuk-era learning center and a symbol of Sivas' place in the Islamic world's educational network. And like the madrasa next door, it also houses a cafe and boutique shops.
Now you're probably wondering, hey Jack, why didn't you go to that mosque while you're right here next to all these madrasas? And the answer to that question is, because I'm going there tomorrow.
Continuing down the road, I came to the mosque of Shimsi Savasi Hazrat Larry, built beside his tomb in the 1600s. Shimsi Savasi was a respected Sufi scholar and preacher who spread Islamic learning and spiritual teaching across Anatolia. The mosque developed around his tomb, becoming a small center of devotion and study for his followers. It still functions as both a neighborhood place of prayer and a site of quiet respect, where visitors stop to recite verses or pay homage to one of Sivas' most influential religious figures. I capped off my day by visiting the Sivas Archaeological Museum, located behind a park off of Government Square. It's housed in a building that dates to the 1890s and was originally constructed as a vocational school. It was converted to an archaeology museum and opened in 2009. Inside, displays span from the Chalcolithic to the Bronze Ages to the Hittite, Roman, Byzantine, Seljuk, and Ottoman periods. Highlights include a pair of ritual bull rita, Hittite seal rings, Roman glassware, and coins. It's a small museum, but its presentation is clear and chronological, which makes it a compact way to trace how this region of Anatolia has been occupied, conquered, and rebuilt across the thousands of years.
So you're probably noticing a theme with the videos by now, and that when you see the bright white flash for a transition, that normally means it's a new day. So, good morning, because it is a new day. Today I am currently sitting up on the site of the old Sivas castle, and my theme for the day is going to be roughly, generally, loosely kind of shaped around governance in the city as it relates to the various empires I've already talked about in numerous videos, and religion. So starting here at the side of the old Sivas castle, you can tell, or you will be able to tell once I'm done talking, that this used to be a site of importance, but there's nothing here. I'll just give a quick pan to show you. There's no castle here anymore. But back in the 200s and 300s, the Byzantines built a castle up on this site so that they could have a governing, administrative, military structure on high ground to see the surrounding areas. And you can tell from the panoramic views, it's a good spot. You can see for miles in every direction, as was common with the frontier garrisons at the time. I mentioned yesterday about the Ulu Cami, how that was kind of the Seljuk answer to Byzantine occupation and governance in the area. Well, this is sort of the Byzantine answer to non-Byzantine, non-Christian occupation on the other side of the line. So several hundred years before Islam, but there were still enemies on this side of the Byzantine Empire. Interestingly, the Seljuks took over in the 1000s. They occupied this castle, used it as a governance site, as a military site, as a focal point for religious power. And they actually, just down the hill, which I showed yesterday, those madrasas, and I'm going to go to one of the mosques down there today, they established those Islamic education institutions close to the castle as a way of consolidating the political religious power of the Seljuk Empire / Abbasid Caliphate. Ultimately though, through a series of invasions by various other empires that I haven't talked about too much, like the Mongols actually invaded at one point and occupied this part of the world for a short amount of time, the castle was eventually destroyed. All right, it was involved in warfare. Some of the castle's enemies took it for their own use as barracks or warehouses or whatever, but eventually it was destroyed. And just like in Egypt with the Kamombo temple, the Sivas castle was eventually dismantled, mostly for use in building materials to rebuild the city and some other projects in the region, which is, we don't think about in the moment preserving that kind of history because our current needs are far more pressing. It's the same story at Auschwitz, why there are hardly any buildings remaining because they needed to rebuild Auschwitz, and why the Kamombo temple, you can see the clean cut because they needed the stone to build the mill. That said, still an incredibly important part of Sivas' history because it does provide this commanding view and it established the Muslim dominance in the area. And I do find it funny that you have the Ulu Cami, that is a kind of small, pretty humble structure that served as the Grand Mosque as the sign of Muslim dominance in the Seljuk period. And then you have the Sivas Castle not very far away, which is gone now, as the sign of Byzantine dominance in the area. And just goes to prove that in terms of empires and even religions, time marches on.
Once I had my fill of the views up at the park at the old Sivas Castle, it was time to head back down into town and see what else I could get into as related to the town's history. Naturally, as I made my way back into town, I had to stop and take videos at some of the beautiful things that I saw along the way, like this mosque that I couldn't go in, but it was still something nice to see. I don't remember the full story, but this isn't the original incarnation of this mosque. It's been renovated, restored, and updated over the centuries, and now it has this super modern look. I eventually made my way back to that mosque that I didn't go into the day before. It's called the Kale Keme, which literally translates as the Castle Mosque. It dates back to the 1100s and it was built during the Seljuk era, but it was later restored by the Ottomans. It once served the fortress community that surrounded it, and though it's small, it carries layered history of both empires within its modest walls. Unfortunately, it was closed to the outside while I was there, so I couldn't go see it. Right across the street from the Kale Kame and the madrasis is the Ataturk Congress and the Ethnography Museum. This building is incredibly important to modern Turkey's history. It was originally constructed in the late 1800s as Sivas Governor's Mansion, but in 1919, it became the headquarters of the Sivas Congress, a decisive meeting where Mustafa Ataturk, Turkey's first post-Ottoman leader, and his delegates set the foundation for the modern Turkish Republic. The rooms are preserved much as they were back then, complete with period furniture, flags, and handwritten notes from the Congress sessions. Upstairs, displays cover local ethnography, traditional clothing, crafts, and household tools from Sivas and the surrounding region, providing a look into daily life during the early Republic and Ottoman periods. The museum stands both as a political landmark and a cultural record, linking the story of modern Turkey to its deeper provincial and Ottoman roots. I've mentioned Ataturk before. He was the military commander who led Turkey through the final collapse of the Ottoman Empire and into a new era as a modern republic. After the War of Independence, he abolished the Sultanate and Caliphate, replacing centuries of imperial rule with a secular national government. Ataturk pushed sweeping reforms, adopting the Latin alphabet, advancing education, and giving women full civic rights. He sought to unify a country fragmented by war, religion, and ethnicity under a single Turkish identity, built on reason, progress, and national pride. His influence still defines Turkey today in its institution, its school, and even in how the nation understands itself. In fact, it's still illegal to insult Ataturk. That's how much pride they have in him. This is the Pasha Cami, one of Sivas' most prominent Ottoman mosques, and it was built in the late 1500s. Its design reflects the classic Ottoman style, a style that has defined mosques since its inception. A large central dome, balanced proportions, and a tall, elegant minaret. The mosque served both as a place of worship and as a symbol of provincial authority during Ottoman rule, and it reminds locals of the empire's reach even into Anatolia's interior.
Several of the mosques that I visited over the last couple of weeks here in Turkey have had the name Pasha in the title. That's P-A, the Shah symbol, which is like an S with a little curve at the bottom, and then A again, Pasha. And the Pasha Camis are ones that were commissioned after the Ottomans took over Turkey. In fact, the name Pasha is a title that was given by a sultan to someone who, the best way to kind of describe it is, had a semblance of nobility. Now, the nobility wasn't hereditary, it was granted to one individual, and most of the Pasha Camis in Turkey were commissioned by and commissioned and designed by the chief architect of the Ottoman Empire, which had a couple of different impacts. One, it kind of put the Ottoman stamp on the architecture of Turkey, and you can see it in this one. I mean, this is, when you think of a mosque, this is kind of what you think of, is the Ottoman style architecture. But two, it intertwined politics and religion. The state, the caliphate, was establishing at the, what I would call the federal level, the mosques, and designing them themselves, as opposed to what we've seen in other videos like in Harput or in Diyarbakir, where the ones that are older than the Ottoman Empire kind of had their own distinct local look, or honestly kind of plain look, because they were just buildings used for worship, as opposed to an imperial stamp on religion to give it this grandiose, majestic feel.
But there was more to the Ottoman Empire than just mosques and imperial design. There were khans, famous hotels, even Turkish baths, kind of like the ones that you're seeing right now. A khan was really just a square market area. This one is one of the oldest and most famous in the town, although today it sells kind of tourist junk. This hotel is an old caravanserai, which is an inn that catered specifically to travelers, hence the name. It's been around for centuries, and it's been restored to be a luxury hotel, fulfilling the role it was intended for when it was constructed centuries ago. Right next door was a Turkish bathhouse that was still active.
I was going to go in there and take video or picture or whatever, but there's like shirtless dudes standing right at the entrance. So I think the bathhouse starts right here, so I'm not going to. So it's not even 2 o'clock yet, but the sun feels like it's, 4 in the afternoon in Spain. That is because I'm quite a bit further north than where I started in Mardin. Almost the exact opposite side of the country, and because it's October and I've been here since mid-September in the country, so it's getting to be shorter daytime. I'm walking around going, man, I've wasted so much time. I'm like, wait, no, it's not even 2 o'clock. But I guess that's just, how science works. Also, the places I was just going, or planning to go just now, don't exist. Not because they don't exist in history, but because the city moved on and knocked them down to build neighborhoods. So no history for me there.
Leaving the apartment buildings that have replaced what I was sure would have been some really cool history behind, I made my way back to Government Square as I headed to the mosque that was under construction. But on the way, I had to see a few things like this monument to Ataturk. These panels tell the story of Ataturk's arrival in Sivas in 1919, when the city became a center for the Turkish national movement. They trace the meetings held here, the decisions that shaped the War of Independence, and the vision that led to the founding of the Republic, all watched over by the monument of Ataturk himself, standing at the heart of it all. This building houses the headquarters for the Jandarma, the Gendarmerie of Turkey. It's a pretty cool building, but more impressive is what lies behind it, the Sivas Martyrs Monument. This monument stands as a solemn tribute to those from the region who have lost their lives in Turkey's wars, from the War of Independence to more recent conflicts. The monument's simple but powerful, with names etched into stone and symbolic motifs reflecting the sacrifice and national unity. It's a place where visitors pause in silence, not just to remember the fallen, but to recognize the city's deep role in defending and shaping the Turkish Republic. As a former soldier myself, I felt a bit connected to this monument. I've known people that have died overseas in battle, and when it comes right down to it, all soldiers are the same, fighting for our country and our families and our way of life.
And this is my final stop here in Sivas. This will be the Merkez Cami complex here just off of Government Square. I mentioned yesterday that there was the Ulu Cami and there was another mosque that was really going to kind of supplant it and really make it the focal point of Sivas's social, political, administrative, and religious center, and that is going to be this one. It's going to have shops underneath, like several other, like the Pasha Cami I was at earlier today, and the Palace Mosque that I was at in Elazig, and it's going to have the mosque up top that has room for 2,400 worshipers at a single time. And personally, I think it's no coincidence that the mosque is located there, the Gendarmerie right there, and Government Square is just on the other side.
This mosque has been years in the making, and there are even complaints on Google reviews that it's taking so long to construct. In a lot of people's view, every city needs a centralized grand mosque to represent how much faith matters to the community. You can see that even though it's still under construction, it's still being built in that classic Ottoman style, which has dominated Turkey since the 1400s. It's been 600 years of tradition, no need to change it now.
So that's it for this episode of the Wayfarer Expedition. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like the video, hit the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss a single thing coming to you from the adventure across the world. And check out my social medias, Threads, Instagram, and Snapchat at JRT Voyage, the Facebook page, Jack Rogers Author, and of course, JackRogersAuthor.com, so you don't miss any vlogs, updates, or invitations to join me on this crazy ride across the world. Now, I've got to go get back and take care of some things before I have my 8-hour bus ride tomorrow to Konya. So with that, see you guys on the road.